84. I'm Haber. That's Martinez. And off to the side of me is the Honorable Judge Ed Newman. Judge Newman is our guest today. We've entitled the show in honor of his honor, number 64, Miami's own warrior judge from the Gridiron to the Gavel. You're going to find out during the course of the show that the name of today's show coincides with the name of Judge Newman's co-authored autobiography, at least part one, which just came out not too long ago, and which you can find on Amazon.com or anywhere that books are sold. If you look at our promo materials, I've attached a link to them. Judge Newman, as many of you know, was a former Miami Dolphin. He started in 1973, joined the team, and he played through the 1985 season. I don't believe he was ever with any other team except for the Duke Blue Devils in college prior to the Dolphins.
That's right.
And Syosset, did I pronounce that right?
It's an Indian name, Syosset.
Syosset High School football in New York. But shy of that, he was a lifelong Dolphin. During his NFL career, he actually started law school at the University of Miami. He graduated after he left the NFL, became a lawyer, practiced for a few years, and was elected judge. He served, I believe, 22 years, Your Honor. Is that correct?
28 years.
28 years.
It felt like 22, though.
As a county court judge here in Miami-Dade County. Both Martinez and I had the privilege of practicing before Judge Newman many times. As I'm sure will come up during the course of the show, Ed was actually assigned as a very young prosecutor when he was in county court to Judge Newman's courtroom. So he spent a great deal of time in there, whereas I got to conduct many a calendar call, report calendar, bench trial, and 2 jury trials in front of Judge Newman during my tenure in his courtroom. With that said, Judge, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you both as a local superstar on the Gridiron and with the Gavel.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank everybody in the audience that appeared in front of me. All the lawyers have been terrific. My family, the fans when I played ball. I have so many people. I could spend the whole interview thanking people. Thank you, everybody.
Well, you've done an awful lot for this community as well. I mean, let's just come right out of the gate and say, you know, it's not just a name on a roster or a guy who sat in a courtroom. You really helped this community. I mean, your blood drive, the types of things that you did to really make an impact in your adopted community, because you know you were born and raised in New York, right? You're a Brooklyn.
That's right. That's right. Many of the ball players have in common a desire to help people. And I wasn't any different, but I was frustrated that there would be a touchdown club or a men's group or some other organization. And I was traveling to West Palm, to Monroe County, everywhere. And I'm not really appreciated by 20 or 30 people for these groups. I asked our director of player personnel, I would like to volunteer my time and really have an impact. South Florida Blood Service was the one that came up, and it really was a perfect match. They raised hundreds of thousands of extra units of blood, saving maybe hundreds of thousands of lives. I don't know the exact number. Very, very good to have done that.
Back when you were playing, they didn't have a Walter Payton Man of the Year award, right?
Well, we had a Walter Payton,
but you didn't have the award at that time. So,
no. He
you know,
that's bad.
The idea that we see today with so much, community involvement and so much giving back from individual players and teams and the NFL itself today, it's become a big priority. But back when you were playing, it was more, much less common. And so what you did,
yes,
I think to me as much value as I think every one of them has to society. What you did back then, when we look at it in perspective, truly was really just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Just can I ask you a question? So when you first started, did a lot of you guys have to have like second jobs? You weren't making the money that some of these athletes are making now, which lends it for them to be able to be charitable. I think a lot of you guys had to have second jobs, right?
Hey, before you answer that, Judge, let me just say, if Martinez had done his homework and read your book, he'd know the answer to that question.
Hey, look, I want to read the man's book, and it's going to be hard not to come across as a fanboy. I just want to get this out, Judge, before you answer my question about second jobs. I saw you play, and I thought you were a really good offensive lineman. Didn't really think much of you. Didn't know anything about you. Thought you were pretty good. Was really upset every year that the Dolphins never made it to the Super Bowl because I didn't see you guys in '73. But I became a humongous fan of yours when I was in your courtroom.
And I have you. I have you. I don't remember any time when we locked horns. Not once.
Never. Never. And it's funny because since we're on the subject, you know why they put me in your division? I don't think I ever told you this. They put me in. They switched me around. They would switch me around and put me in the problem judges.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because I was older, and you know my personality. I'm not one to back down from any fight. So they wanted me to go in there and straighten out these problem judges. So I get in your division, and I'll never forget day one. Day one, I'm thinking, what's the problem? I don't see what the problem is. He's perfectly fine. Everybody in my division is a bunch of idiots. I remember there was one guy who was arguing with you. I won't say his name. It was a DUI, and he was waiting for the tox labs, and he didn't want to know pros, and he was fighting with you about what was in the tox because there was stuff in his system, and one of them was, oh my God, what's this muscle relaxer that they have in a leave? I'm drawing a blank now, but it was a muscle relaxer. Even I knew it was a muscle relaxer. And he's sitting there arguing with the former offensive lineman who probably used to take him like Skittles that we don't know what this is. And I'm sitting there going, these are my mates in the state attorney's office who didn't even do a simple Google search of it's the stuff that's in the leave. I forget what it is. And you were testing him for not being prepared and for not announcing on a no pros.
Did he do it?
I actually pulled him aside and whispered in his ear and said, "You idiot! That's I forget what it is. It'll come to me. It's a muscle relaxer, you moron. Just no pros. If the cops aren't there, which I realized immediately what your frustration was. If
yes,
they don't show up. If it's not important to them, why are we sitting here wasting everybody's time if they can't be there on time to court? They're the ones who arrested the guy for DUI. Show up or give us a legitimate reason why you can't make it to court. I noticed immediately. I knew what you were doing.
There was an unusually high absentee rate. I didn't understand it, but I did have the tool of the bench warrant. The bench warrant is a persuasive item.
Yes, you did.
Especially when it came back to the day of reckoning. And I said everything was in order, everything was scheduled, and everybody said they were going to be there. I would always turn to the prosecutor when the defendant was saying, "Can we just have a continuance and reset it?" And I said, "Should I set aside the warrant?" Is what they would say, and we object. We object. To see what you can do. Of course, I always said this. I never took anybody in.
You always did. You were always. I think I can honestly say you were always a gentleman. You were always a professional. And you wanted people to do their job. You wanted them to come to court. God forbid that you actually come to work prepared. And that's what I think really bothered you. And I noticed immediately that certainly from the people that I was working with in my unit at the state attorney's office that were in your division, there was only 2 or 3 of us in that unit that were actually prepared every time we stepped to the podium. And that's what we should have been.
My experience, I live in a fishbowl. I don't know what's happening in the other division, but I can guess. When you constantly hold people to their feet to the fire, they step up a little bit. There's a better quality of streaming law going on. The progression. People know where I'm coming from, and it was within the ambit of the job. We're here to close the case. That's what we want to do. I want to get the case out so your defendant can walk away from all of this today.
Correct.
I'm not kidding. We really want to have a trial. State, if you're not ready on the day of trial, maybe that's the problem. A lot of the judges would let the prosecutors off as easily as they would let the defendants off.
Absolutely. I don't think it's that they let the prosecutors off. I think every judge is different. Some judges will let the defense bar off way too easily, and some judges will let the state off way too easily. You were fair. You didn't let anybody off.
I didn't let anybody off, but I did give a lot of continuances.
Yes, and you were also very fair. If we came in prepared, if we had a good argument, if we had a good reason why we weren't ready, you were.
I insisted that they were diligent with their discovery. I didn't want to hear that complaint anymore. Oh, the video hasn't come from the police department. You got to press that.
Right.
It's not my job to press it. I don't have an enemy in the police department. You need the information. Ask for it. We'd like to have a continuance, not unless you ask for that material.
Right.
Because I wanted to cut that excuse. I don't want to hear that excuse again.
I agree with you. I agree 100%.
You know,
I want to jump in here. I know you do.
Yeah, I'm dying to jump in because we've dove right into the courtroom inadvertently. And I really want to talk a little bit about the earlier stage, because it really sets the path for why your courtroom ran the way it did. And it was a uniquely run courtroom, having practiced in virtually every one of them in front of all of your colleague judges. Your division stood out in a way that others didn't. And I suspect, and I hope you'll enlighten us, Your Honor, but I suspect that a lot of that had to do with your prism and your perspective in the way that you were reared and raised through your athletic training. I mean, and I would guess with a particular emphasis with regards to Coach Shula, but probably your high school coaches and your college coaches as well.
Yes.
Please, if you don't mind.
I think that in football, it's about results. And in the court of law, it's about truth. Truth really doesn't have a time schedule. I would always say, come on, let's try to get to the truth of it. You think the guy is not guilty, or that there's insufficient evidence to prove that he's guilty, then let's do that. Yes, there's a risk that he'll be convicted, but you have to assess that. I can't. Prosecutors, the similar situations. You have a weak case, get rid of the case, or cut him a break, give him a pretrial diversion or something along those lines. And I was pretty firm, letting people know that I have no interest in the outcome of the case except to close it.
Well, as Ed said, Martinez, there are a variety of different judicial personalities, and we tend to know our judges pretty well after we practice in front of them for a period of time. Yes. Most of them are on one side or the other in terms of being
more
oriented towards the state or more oriented towards the defense.
I see. You think there's a bias.
You ran an extremely neutral courtroom. In my experience, you had one demand, and that was integrity in your courtroom. And again, that's why I dovetail back to your coaching, because I would expect that that's probably something that was instilled in you by your coaches, because you didn't say, I'm taking the shirts over the skins. I'm taking, it was, everybody was held to the same exact standard. So, 1 minute a prosecutor could be being chided from the bench. The next minute a defense attorney. The one person who never, ever, ever got chided in your courtroom was the defendant.
Never.
Ever.
That's right. That's right. And it is, there is, I see what you're dangling a hook. Coach Shula did a great deal to form my approach and the Dolphin organization. It was, I knew what I needed to do. I knew what the law was on the subject. I knew what I would inquire what the procedures were. You wanted to have a jury trial. We knew what that was about. And everything else was nonsense. Everything else was smoke and mirrors. Everything else was, I don't want to work, or I don't have a proper witness, or I didn't pay that guy, or I haven't gotten paid. All of these things they're known as excuses, and everybody's human. You can have your excuses. We'll give you. Typically, I used to keep score. 3 strikes, you're out. You're talking about a speedy trial in 90 days, and you can't get it ready at the 60th day. It's I'm here to do everything I can for you. We had an innovation. Most of the courts didn't have it. I used to say, listen, I don't want to fight with anybody. The prosecutor saying they can't get the police to send over the video. We're going to invite them, and say, come to the court and tell us why you can't do that.
Right.
If you don't, I'm not going to let you testify. The prosecutor was astounded by that.
Having sat in your courtroom and judge, I think part of it is also being a professional athlete, or at least to a higher level of sports where it's extremely competitive. Number one is, I told Michael, from day one, I got the feeling like I was back with all my coaches. I never played college or pro ball, but I played some pretty competitive baseball, and it was the same thing. Nobody has to tell you, you're a big boy. Nobody has to tell you to take extra batting practice if you're in a slump. Nobody has to tell you to go out there and shag some extra ground balls. Nobody has to tell you to run those extra sprints because
Yeah.
if you don't want to do it, that's on you. But the coach is going to hold your feet to the fire and bench you. That's it. Whatever the excuses are useless. If you can't perform, you're going to be benched. And I caught that when I got there that day one, that you wanted us to be prepared. Number one.
I was doing it. I read your materials.
Right. That's true.
We expect to have at least that much. You're the one in interest. That's the party in interest.
And the other thing that I noticed, and now it just hit me, it was probably along the same lines as for being an athlete, that you were so fair to both sides. And I just thought, you know what? Because correct me if I'm wrong, Judge, nothing pisses you off more as an athlete when the refs are cheating you. Now, I don't mean they do it on purpose. A lot of times they don't do it on purpose.
That's true.
And it just pisses you off because you're like, look, just make it fair, man. It's me against him. It's one-on-one. Make it fair so we can see who really is the better man. Just don't cheat me here. Let's make it a fair ball field. And you always made it fair for both sides.
I did what I could within reason. But things kind of. Thank you very much for that vote of confidence. And you did it again and again and again. I went through 6 elections, so
yeah.
Thank you for that too.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Mike, I'm like fanboy here, so you got to cut me off.
No, that's okay. But I want to go back again. I want to take you back to your younger days again.
Sure.
You're growing up in Long Island. You're athletic. You're active in doing. I mean, of course, back then there's no internet. Nobody's sitting home playing PlayStation. You're out doing stuff. You're physical, and so you wound up sporting 2 different arenas at the same time in high school, correct? You played football. In fact, you played multiple positions on the football field.
That's right.
But you also were a competitive wrestler.
I was a state level in high school.
In high school.
State level, and I was all conference 2 times at Duke University.
So
I was invited once to the Nationals.
At Duke, you went nationwide in college, and you also played football at the same time, obviously for the Blue Devils, right?
Well, the seasons aren't, they don't overlap, except for maybe 2 weeks. There's a 2-week overlap.
Well, you did have a couple of issues I read about in your book, which I don't want to spoil for anyone else who might read it, but there were a couple of instances where you did have a little conflict.
That's right. When people mess with your life because they have the power to do it, and there's no other justification for it, then you have reason to be upset. I had a conflict with my coach at Duke University. I won't spoil the story.
Yeah, no, we definitely
I won't spoil the story.
No, we definitely want folks to read the book. But my point is, again, you're doing these things. You're playing all these different genres. Now you're in college, right? I mean, in high school, you probably didn't know where you were going to be after college, but you knew you wanted to go to college. You had your heart set on Duke. For reasons, again, people will understand when they read the book. You get to Duke, and then all of a sudden it's time to come out of college and enter the real world. You're a nationally recognized collegiate wrestler. By the way, you were there on a full athletics football scholarship, correct?
I was. That's right.
Because you came from a working class family. So
that helped my sister and my 2 sisters and brother get to college. My parents were able to afford it.
So you're there, and now it's time to figure out what's life after college going to be like. What's Ed Newman going to do? Am I going to be a football player? Am I going to be a wrestler? Am I going to go to work for the family business? Am I going to join the military? How do you figure out where you want to go with all of those possibilities and talents and options?
I could ask the question, why did you become a lawyer?
I didn't have a choice. My father held a gun to my head.
I think every young person, I'm speaking to young people now, everyone has a kind of a terrain, their mental acuity, their physical abilities. They have a certain place where they can do better than most people in society. And the trick is for parents and mentors and people to find out what they're good at. What's their place? What do they love? Where do they feel the best? And that's what was happening in high school. I was painfully shy, very, very insecure. I had older friends, as I talked about in the book, so they were more mature. The thing that helped me get through was athletic performance. I could feel good about myself, and I became socially accepted. The girls would come around, the other fellas would take you to, let's go out and have a good time, have a party or something like that.
See how
I
much chicken
thought
we can
that
eat.
would have happened. What's that?
See how many pieces of chicken we can eat.
Yeah, that's right. I'm really kind of inward, shy personality. All the notoriety, all the football, and all the stuff we're talking about, I've come out of my shell a little bit. But I still have some of those feelings, anxiety, and those kinds of things.
But why football? I mean, why didn't you, for example, why didn't you decide that you wanted to be, an Olympic wrestler, or for that matter, go into sports entertainment? There was, at that time, sports entertainment was kicking off. There was money there too.
It's an interesting question, because my parents really weren't that big on it. They didn't want me to do it. I love the challenge, the physical challenge of it goes to the purity of a result. This is really, as I think of on it, I love that how crystal clear, how black and white it was on the football field. You either got your job done or you didn't. You either won the game or you didn't.
Was there something more attractive about the team component as opposed to the individual component of wrestling? Was it more rewarding to work as a unit, especially as an offensive lineman? You could be the greatest offensive lineman in the world, but if the four other guys lining up with you aren't up to par and working as a well-oiled machine, it doesn't make a difference.
Michael, you might be surprised. I was investing so much into physical development, the conditioning, the bench presses, the wrestling, the extra calisthenics, everything that I could do. I was putting a lot into it. I expected to get a lot out of it. But when you're one player out of 22 starters on a football team, sometimes I'm saying opposite from what you're saying. Yes, there's a feeling of team camaraderie and common goal as band of brothers. But I do confess a secret dissatisfaction that I put all that effort in there and we didn't win. I can't even crow about a good performance. And those are frustrating things. Over years, I started developing a much stronger bond. And by the time I got to Shula, there was an evolution where the team was everything. I put myself behind the team, not even a question. The team was everything, and that is the what are we here for? We're here to get to the Super Bowl, and we're going to do it. I remember coming in as a rookie. That's what it was.
Of course, you suffered a series of injuries as many pro athletes do, and so at some point you had to start thinking about life after football, right? I mean, it's not just.
It doesn't take an injury to do that. Anybody with any sense will. You can't be 45 years old playing NFL football.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
Unless you're Tom
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You owe me a Coke.
Yeah. That would come up. That was a bet.
Yeah, well, we said it at the same time. But you started to develop your plan B. How did that come to be? Because ultimately you transition. Look, I tried to Google how many NFL players found careers in the law, because obviously NFL players can become anything they wish to after the NFL. And many NFL players are, surprisingly well educated. Most people, I guess, think, at least when we were younger, we thought about rocks for jocks, which, by the way, I took, and I wasn't a jock. I just hated science. But we tend to think not about the brightest and the boldest, but there are so many great examples of how many of you guys there are out there. So I did this Google search. There have been quite a few NFL players that became lawyers, but I wanted to know how many became judges. And I actually asked you this before we did our show, started the show, and you and I had both found the same guy, Alan Page, who I'm sure you knew because you played at the same time.
I faced him.
Mm-hmm. You had some overlapping eras, and Alan played for the Vikings, and he is actually ascended all the way up to the Supreme Court of the state of Minnesota. He, I believe, also at one point was appointed assistant attorney general in the state of Minnesota. But I wanted to know if there were any more, and I did find two others. So let me run these two names by you. Dwayne Woodruff.
I don't know, but I know him now.
Dwayne Woodruff played from 79 to 90 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, got his JD like you when he was playing football. He went to law school. He became a personal injury lawyer afterwards, and he is currently a sitting judge in the Common Pleas Court in Allegheny, Pennsylvania. So that's three of you now, but I found a fourth, and I don't know how this one, I missed it. Byron White.
Yeah.
United States Supreme Court Justice
That's
appointed
right.
by President Kennedy. We all missed it. He was appointed by Kennedy. He played for what was then the Pittsburgh Pirates, ultimately became the Pittsburgh Steelers, and for the Detroit Lions.
Great.
And he was on the panels the Supreme Court panels that decided Miranda v. Arizona and Roe v. Wade.
Look at that. But I have a question about Alan Page. Did he behave judge-like on the field?
He didn't chatter. He didn't chatter. He was all focus. He didn't say two words. It was scary. It was scary.
And no cheap shots, no dirty shots.
No. You're putting me in a little bit of a jam because I revere Alan Page. He was a great one.
He was. That whole line.
I faced him when he was like in his last year, his last days. And I weighed about 30 pounds more than him at the time, and I was far stronger than he was. He had every technique in the world, and I felt like I was.
I know, taking advantage.
I didn't beat him up. I could have.
Oh, listen.
All I needed to do was neutralize him. That's what I did. We all
get there, and I'm sure Alan Page recognized that he had gotten to a point where he just wasn't the same guy anymore.
That's part of a plan B.
Yeah.
The body tells you, your body's saying you got a knee injury, you got another injury, you got a third knee injury, you got like been concussed a few times. Your back has got arthritic changes, and you're in your 20s.
Here's the beauty of playing sports that I carry over me personally into my world as a lawyer and anything I do in life. There's a certain beauty to it, at least for me, that when your time is up, right? Because Judge, when you were an offensive lineman, I'm sure there was a time where you looked at a guy from across from you that was besting you, and you were thinking, this guy should never best me. And you realized
it didn't happen.
It's time.
It didn't happen.
Really? You got out? You got out while you were on top.
I'll tell you what happened. I don't know that it's in the book a little bit. That's your excuse because you still have to get that.
I have cases. I have cases. I'm working.
Yeah, I got injured and I sat injured reserve for the remainder of the year, and I was wanting for a contract. I needed to have a contract. The rule is you can't come into camp unless you have a contract. My bargaining position was I was the top right guard in the league before my injury, the year before. So those were my credentials. But the team was saying, you've just had your third injury. You don't have that kind of intangible value of years of ability to give to us. I said, now look, I'm not a regular person in the gym. When we go for the weightliftings, I live in the land of pain, and I don't want to have that kind of pain. Just to hear you say we can't give you a contract, I thought that was terribly unfair. Says I'd like to get more than I got the last time, and I'd like to have some guarantees, or I'm going to stop working out on May 1st, right around there. So there was Charlie when I was director of player personnel, brought it back to the team. And the response was, you'll always be considered one of the family.
Wow.
I was really upset about this. I called them and said, it's May. I'm not quitting, but I'm not going to the gym anymore. Not like the crazy man I was, in the land of pain. I was doing it for just keep, loose and stronger and fit.
Right.
So what happened in the preseason, I hadn't worked out now for about 3 months, maybe 4 months, 3 or 4 months at all. And so I'm starting to get into normal routines. As I was in law school, I was working all the moot courts and all that stuff. The Dolphins had a rash of injuries at the offensive line, and this is answering your question. Steve Clark was an offensive guard. Jeff Tays, Bob Kuchenberg was right at the end of his career right then. They were all gone, and Marino said something to the press and to Shula. I need to have an offensive line. Ed Newman just announced his retirement and said he was able to play, that he wasn't quitting. Shula gives me a phone call and says, okay, we're going to recommend that you get the contract with the signing bonuses and everything that you want. I said, it's very flattering, but what you're saying is I didn't have the strength to keep the guy's fist from hitting my head. You can block yourself. I was weak. I wasn't at that top echelon of strength. I always wanted to be the strongest guy on the field every game. I wasn't that guy anymore. So I mentioned it to Shula. Shula says, don't worry, we'll let you have a couple of weeks to get in shape.
Couple of weeks.
Oh my God. And I'm thinking to myself, you are such a liar. He would have put me in there, and I probably would have gotten hurt again.
Right.
The risks were too high. So the decision was, I can't do that, Coach. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the fans.
How did your fast forwarding a little bit? How did you wind up having your former teammate Tony Nathan agree to be your bailiff in criminal court?
What a wonderful team we were as players and in the courtroom. The scenario was there were earlier bailiffs. I didn't know who to hire. There was a policeman from the corrections, Eddie Salinetro, and I hired him, and he good friend, and we worked together for a long time. There was Mitchell Perez. He was recommended by my secretary, who I had been working with as a lawyer. My secretary came from Coral Gables High School. And so the cousin comes in, and we worked together for about 10 years. I was a really good guy. He helped me and removed the cases very well.
Remember,
you might remember Mitch. Mitch was a pretty good guy. He was comes in one day and says, I have a family and I'm looking for extra income. And he got a job with customs. That's right. He passed the test, he did everything he needed to do, and says, "I'm on standby. They have a hiring freeze. So let me know. Try to give me a few weeks notice." So one day comes up and gives me a few weeks notice. The scenario, I'm looking around. I'm going, this one. People were climbing out of the woodwork to get to be that bailiff. They knew the word got around. Every retired police officer, a lot of people were saying, please let me have this job. And I'm thinking, I'm reading the newspaper, Tony Nathan was just let go as one of the coaches. I don't remember which team. If it was, he coached with the Dolphins. I don't remember. It was a different team. And he was having a tough time getting a placement, employed as a coach. So I placed a call. Tony, I'd like you to be my bailiff. And he didn't even understand what I was asking. He had so little connection with I said, he thought I was joking with him. I pestered him a few times. I said, it will be great. He said, Ed, my dream is to be a coach. I said, here's the answer. You put me on probation. I'm hiring you if you'll come to court and get started. You quit when you want. If you get a job, you'll have plenty of time to ask the other teams in the league, see if you can get an interview. I'll let you go to every interview you want. Of course, you'll have it'll be like the most wonderful association in the whole courtroom. We'll be known as the Dolphin Division. We'll be able to banter about Shula and the times when, what do you think Coach Shula would say if someone came in 5 minutes after the whistle, the start of the game started? We would have fun. We would have fun. I said, okay, Tony, go take this guy into custody. And he'd look at me like, what do you want me to put hands on him? No, get a police officer.
I love Nate.
I want to.
He's still doing it for those that don't know. There was a beautiful thing with Marcus Bach, as you know, he's my replacement in division, and he asked me if he could take a run at that position. And I said, of course, I'm going to retire. Thank you. That was very respectful. And he came from the Miami Dolphin organization. He was a lawyer for the team. So that also remained the Dolphin division. We had a powwow. I talked to Tony, and my secretary is Diane. What do you want to do? Do you want to stay working? You want me to help you? I'll use everything, all my influence. So I wrote letters, and when it came to Marcus, I said, I like him. I know him. I think he'll be good for you, and you'll be good for him. He's new, he's green, and you're seasoned, and you'll help him out. And that's how it is. And they're arcing and doing a great job, I'm told.
With your permission, I'd like to have our producers pop up a couple pictures, and maybe you could throw a little commentary behind them.
Sure.
Would that be all right? Andre, can you throw up number one?
All right, this is.
We have a pretty bad echo, Andre.
There's a production.
Yeah.
Andres.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, we're clear now. Go ahead, Judge. What are we looking at?
I believe this is the first. They didn't have rookie cards, or if they had a rookie card, it was for the first round or second round picks. I'm here about my 9th year here.
Yeah.
Of the first card, I think it's the first card. Tops, and let me show you something. This is really something. This is not scripted. See if I have it here.
I remember you in that era. That's the era I remember you, Judge. I started watching the Dolphins in
Here's every day. All right. I get mail. This one's from Samuel. I won't mention his last name. I'm going to open it up. And what do we have? This I get about 3 or 4 of these, and I don't know how they do it.
How do they get your address?
Look at that. Seeking autographs?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Dear Mr. Newman, I hope this letter finds you doing well. I'm writing today to request that you please sign a few of my football cards. I'm a lifetime football fan. It would mean a lot to me if you'd sign them. I signed them, and they must have a club or something, because there's a self-addressed stamped envelope.
I got to be honest.
Consider it.
I've been thinking of asking you the same thing, but I didn't want to do it while you were on the bench. So I didn't want anybody to think, and then you'd have to recuse yourself. So I'd never said anything. But now that you are retired, I've been meaning to get around to it. And I'm telling you, Mike, I'm going to need to get his number. I want to send you one, because I want to put it right there next to these Dolphin posters and autographs that I have, Judge. Because you,
Andres, put up number 2. What are we looking at here, Judge?
Eric Laxo is the man facing number 56. We got a Patriot. That might be. I'm not sure if that's Steve Nelson. I'm in the bubble, as they call it. There's a 3-man front that's rushing on Marino. This is a Marino era photograph. It's a pass.
How about number 3? Well,
okay.
There we go. Number 3.
Another one of the cards. Another one. I worked so hard in the shadow of Bob Kuchenberg and Larry Little. God bless them. They're both great.
Yeah.
Kuch is deceased. God bless his soul. Larry's still a great, and he's got a book that's coming out in a couple of months, I think. I don't know when it's coming out. These fellas really helped me, reach into myself and get the most out of my career. And another thing you mentioned, I had my share of injuries, but most of those are career ending. I've managed to get past them, and even better and stronger. I had a thyroid cancer while I was playing ball. Each one of these very, very tough times made me stronger, made me resolve that I needed to do it better, best of all. And even the it's kind of a limited career. So my mother would say to me, play every practice, every game as if it were your last minute on the field. and I did. I was a little bit over the top.
I remember
really into it.
Throw up number 4 for me, Andres.
Are you putting up number 4? I remember you.
Yeah, I want to run through a couple of these because we're pushing out of time. You got to get these things in order.
Story before we go, Judge, of when you were on the bench. That's gonna hopefully it'll make. I don't think you're gonna remember it, but you and I was dying laughing in the courtroom. After we get this picture, I
think Andres is smoking crack in the room back there.
Shula would definitely have him running laps.
Number 4, Andres. Number 4.
Andre, Shula would have you running laps, buddy.
I don't know what's going on with our producer.
Andre, they got to make no mental mistakes.
We're going to have you held in contempt in a minute. That's not number 4, Andre.
This isn't going to work.
That is not number 4.
One day that I saw you on the field on a Monday Night Football game, you probably aren't going to remember this because there's so many plays you don't remember.
I kind of remember it.
I doubt you will. I mean, look, you're in the heat of the moment. You're doing things. Do you remember on a Monday Night Football game where somebody, after the play, they horse-collared Marino and body slammed him?
I don't remember that.
You were around there. You were blocking your guy, but somebody got free on a blitz or something. And right as Marino let go of the ball, and this was back when you could actually tackle the quarterback. Back in that,
there's number 4, Judge.
They slammed him to the ground, and you came. Man, I'm telling you right now, I will never forget that play because I didn't know you at the time, but I remember thinking, I would not want a piece of Ed Newman if that man is pissed. Man, you came over, you grabbed that guy, and you body slammed him, and he was a lineman or a linebacker. And all hell broke loose, and the refs had to break it up, and you were like yelling at him. I can tell you were yelling at him, and you're not going to do that to my quarterback.
Andres, number 5. Number 5, Andres.
You don't remember that play, do you?
I don't. It happened. That's how we were.
Yeah.
And it's part of a learning thing.
I love it.
Monty Clark, as our line coach, he would say things like that. You're going to let.
What are we looking at here, Judge?
This was the starting offensive line in 1982. Dwight Stevenson.
The great Dwight Stevenson.
Cleveland Green. Dwight's 57 Hall of Famer. Roy Foster and John Giesler. Myself and Dwight and Giesler are on the Walk of Fame, and Roy Foster was very good. And Cleveland Green retired before he could have played a couple more years. He became a farmer.
Number 6. We got to do these in rapid succession here.
We called ourselves Miami Vice. That was when the television show was on. Miami Vice. That's what we called ourselves.
What do we got here, Judge?
There was a sweep play, and I'm pulling, and the ball carrier. It's Tony Nathan, I think.
Yep.
Is gonna. I'm probably trying to seal number 56. This is the Steelers. Take an outside leg. His right leg. Try to get my right shoulder and right in front of that. And then the ball
number 7, Andre.
Yeah, look
like rapid. We got to run through these quickly because we've got.
And he had that upright running style. That looked like Nate in the backfield.
Yeah.
There's number 7.
Yes.
That's a good picture.
That's you and Nate.
Number 8, please.
What a good time I had playing ball. People ask what was better, football or the lawyering judging. So football was better when I was in my 20s. That's how it is. Your body kind of gives out, like you say, Eddie. It's it's time to find Plan B.
Yep.
Andres, how we doing here? Number 8.
How come they don't have too many cameras in the courthouse? That's.
We're going to get to those. Let me go to number 9 real quick. Do these quickly. 9. There's 9. You and the man.
I think this was at the top 50 award, and Coach Shula let me ride with him. I need to talk about my relationship with. He very much a father figure for me. Never gave me a little story. When I got accepted at UM Law, I knocked on his door in preseason. No one knew about it. I was being secretive about it. I didn't want to brag or anything like that. And I told him that I needed to plan for a future. and was attending night classes in law school. And he, to his credit, said, "Of course you can do that. I want all my people to prepare for their futures, but my priority," Shula talking for himself, "is to bring the best team on the field, and I'm going to be watching you. You can go to law school at night, but if I see that you're sleepy or you're letting down or you're breaking down because of law school, I'm going to ask you to quit the law school." And
Number 10. Keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to pop the next
I
thing.
agreed with him. I shook his hand. That year, I was the top right guard in the league, and I made my 4th Pro Bowl. So that was great. It was great. He was always true. I really love that man. I'm sorry that he's gone.
I heard he was pretty hard on you your rookie year, though.
He was. He was.
I'm sure he was no harder than your teammates.
My teammates gave me hell. I was that damn rookie.
Here's what I heard. I heard he was hard on you your rookie year. I heard he was hard on everybody except Larry Zonka. I heard that Larry Zonka could get away with murder. Is that true?
He looked away. He didn't want to have confrontation. Some of the people that were really producers, he didn't engage. You don't want to. He knew he was just terrific. He really had a good handle, good charisma.
Judge, take a look at the shot above us right now.
Is that that's me? All right, that's at Syosset. That's in our gym. It looks like.
That's your high school.
Oh, I know what this is. I'll tell you what this is.
Yeah.
The NFL. Let's see if I can do that. They set up a campaign, the Golden Football. Any high school alumni that went to a Super Bowl was said, you can get one of these balls made up, and if you present it to your high school.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So I did that.
Pop up number 11, please, Andres. And then we'll go to 12 in a moment, but I want the audience to be able to see this one. Judge?
What happened here is this is AARP. I got a call and they wanted to do an article, and I helped them. We promoted the AARP, and they came in to see the Dolphin divisions. That actual sign, Go Fins, on the small line, it says AARP on the bottom, and the photographer said, yes, we'd like to have a shot for the newspaper article, for the article. It was pretty good.
I've got one more of you and Tony in court. Pop up number 12 for us, please, Andres. There we go.
There you go.
We love that picture.
It is a great picture. What a good time we had. Tony's such a sweet man too. I'm on a different thing, but he's such a good, God-fearing, honest, hardworking, happy, uplifting. He's all the adjectives. He's a really fine man.
I got to tell you, Nate is one of my favorite bailiffs because I can have an entire conversation with that man just by the eyes. The way he moves his eyes, little smirks. I walk in and I'll say something. He'll just give me a look. I'll be like, got it. I love Tony. He doesn't even have to open his mouth. He's a good guy.
There's not an evil bone in his body. He can do no wrong. He's a really nice, a special man. And now he's a grandpa, and he's got his children and his grandchildren. He's doing really well. He's working with Bach, Gabe Bach. Marcus Bach, his father. Remember Gabe?
Are they in the same courtroom as you were, or they have a different physical courtroom?
No, they have a different courtroom, I think. I'm pretty sure.
At this time? At one time, the courtroom, I think you're right. They did change the room, didn't they?
Yeah, they changed it. I was in there recently. They changed it. He's on the 4th floor now. You were 6'6", was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can pull that one down, Andres.
I remember.
Thank you.
I remember 6.
So I this one's a little premature, but we're putting it up here. I want the audience to know you have three ladies in your life, right? Your lovely wife and your 2 daughters.
I have the best wife in the world. none of this we wouldn't be talking about any of it weren't for my Kathy. Kathy and I just had our January 23rd, 47th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
Just a couple of days ago.
Congrats.
Some of the products of that is this young lady here. The young girl on the left is Holly when she was in diapers, and the young lady on the right is at her wedding. My Holly Gold.
Now, I don't have a picture of your other daughter, Stephanie, but the reason that I put these two pictures up there is not to show any sort of favoritism, but it's because your youngest daughter, Holly, who we're looking at here, had the privilege of co-authoring your book with you. And so I thought she deserved a special shout out for that. I know that the bond, I can only imagine how important that is to you as a parent to have had that opportunity.
Each child gives their own gifts, and I love both of them the same. They don't have to worry about equal opportunity, but this one had some great ability to edit and to write and to collate and to put the stories together and give me the time. We spent about 4 years working on this story. This last year in retirement, we polished it as much as we could. And we finally have a product. She's very special. She's also a Duke graduate.
Oh,
and
nice.
She got her master's degree in business at Columbia, the teachers college there. And she had a time between jobs now, and that's when she helped me with the getting the book out. I was working on the book beforehand. It was nowhere near the quality of what Holly and I have been able to put together. Most of the credits go to Holly. I got to thank my wife and my two girls. They're very central to my life.
Andres, pop up number 14, the final slide, because that's the book cover that I want everybody to be able to see. Again, if you look at any of the promo materials on Facebook or MeWe or Twitter or Instagram or wherever you want to find them, there's a link that you can click on to get the book, whether you want to get it on digital format as I did, or if you want a physical hard copy. And then you could probably ship it off to his honor like those cards and maybe get a signature on it.
I'd be happy to do that.
That's the cover of the book.
I'm hoping to have a cup of coffee with you one day, Judge, very soon.
I hope so.
Before we
forward to it.
I gotta tell my story.
I can tell you this. There's a young lady named Della White. She's the secretary to the chief judge of the state of Florida, and she takes the applications for senior judge status. Those that don't know, because of the drop program, you have to stay a full year out of the system. There is a senior judge status that you can apply for, and I have applied. I actually had a pretty tough time without action every day, but I'm starting to like retirement now that things are. I get excited about the book as well. Kathy and I are doing a little bit of vacation time, but life is good. Everything is going well. Things are coming in place. I may be able to see you at the courthouse again as a substitute teacher, or as a substitute judge is as a substitute teacher is.
Yeah,
For somebody who can't make it. I have to give Miss White a call. I should have known already.
Yeah,
Whether I got it.
My story is going to blend the courtroom and.
Hang on, Ed. Ed, quiet. Stop talking. I want to introduce Ed's daughter and co-author, Holly Newman Greenberg. Can you please, Andres, remove the book cover so that we can see Holly?
Hi.
Holly, what a treat.
Hi,
so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Thank
Holly.
you for having me on. I've been listening in the back room for a little while, and you used the word privilege. I really did have such a privilege to partner with my dad in capturing his story, and I hope people read it and enjoy it and love it and know that it was just written with love. And thank you for having me on for a few minutes here.
Oh, it's our great pleasure. You've increased the attractiveness factor of the show exponentially.
Yeah,
and probably the intelligence factor too.
No doubt.
It's really so. Let me ask you, Holly, what was it like growing up the daughter of a hero in your community? I mean, there must have been some kind of.
Well, so my dad was in Super Bowl 19, which was played in '85. And I was born in 82. So I wasn't even 3 years old when he had his last big game. So what, it's a little foreign.
She
It's just,
felt, isn't everybody an all-pro?
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but like don't all dads play sports? My dad played professional football. Your dad probably played professional baseball, right? Like that's how it works. I just kind of assumed. But as I got older, I started realizing he is special. Or, I was in preschool, and I remember my dad picking me up from class a few minutes early, and he put me up on his shoulders, and all the kids came out and rushed him, and they're at his knees asking for autographs, and I'm like, what is this?
What the hell? Why did you want my dad done?
One kid in elementary school asked me why didn't I go to a school for famous people's kids, but so yeah,
I don't think of myself like that.
yeah,
It's
but
funny,
But you are, and
you
how
are, you're special, and
I hope you heard me say this about your dad, that I knew your dad I didn't know him personally, but I knew of him because I became a Dolphin fan coincidentally in '84.
yeah.
Because I'd seen Marino one day on a Saturday. I wasn't even a football fan. And I saw Marino one day on a Saturday when he was playing at Pitt, down by 100 touchdowns. And just in the fourth quarter was just like, who is this? And I said, today, whoever drafts this man, I'm going to start watching pro football, and that's going to be my team. And he ended up being in Miami. So I knew your dad, and I knew he was a good lineman. And, I'd always heard a couple of good things about him. But I really got to know your dad when I was a prosecutor, and I can tell you, that's what made me a fan. It's the man that he is. The kind of man he is what made me a fan of your father, not the football player.
Here's a kind of a tangent on it. I'm about to lose my power here. I'm
going to tell you the story that mixes football and the courtroom. But go ahead. Finish it.
It's just that I came into the law. Michael was talking about. I had a different perspective. I was about doing what was right, doing what was honorable, doing what was true. I wasn't affected by what many other lawyers and judges were affected by. The law itself, the statutes are clear. You can't do this in a criminal context.
Right.
And this is the accusation. The question is it proven beyond a reasonable doubt? That's it. You don't have to get complicated.
Perfect segue. So I'm in your courtroom. I'd already been there for a while. I already knew you. We had already developed a relationship. I love the way you worked. I think you loved that I understood, and I was always prepared.
I did. I very appreciated.
So we're sitting there one day, and there's a battery that happened at a Dolphin game, at Dolphin Stadium. And we have some young CLI or I don't know. Victim doesn't show up. There's no victim. And they still want to go forward on a trial against a guy who got into a fight with some other guy at a Dolphin game. And you're like, look, all right, if that's what you want, let's go. And it's a bench trial. So judge, there was no jury. Let's go forward. So I'm in the background, and it's just us. There's no jury. It's just the lawyers. It was I think it was a CLI who wanted to get a little bit of practice. Big guy, big Dominican guy. And the story is that they were there. He was there with his brother and the nephew, the brother's son, and whatever. And there was a guy on the upper deck who was drunk and yelling and screaming and all kinds of things. And at one point, he throws a bottle down, a plastic bottle, and he hits the kid. Everybody points, and they bring him down to ID the guy. Well, the uncle, the guy that got arrested, was off in the wings in the hallway. They bring him to the father and the son and whatever, and they say, yes, the guy. And as they're walking him out, he hears the alleged victim say to the cop, F them. I wish it was glass so I could have shattered the kid's head. So the uncle hears that as he's walking by and just decks him. So we're in the middle of the trial, and I'm sitting there. They're doing this. There's no victim, so we know where this is going. And the guy says, yeah, we were here. It was a Dolphin game, and I mouthed to you from behind everybody. I mouthed to you. When the guy was drunk and obnoxious, I said, it must have been a Jet game.
Yes. It could have been Buffalo.
You remember that? You went like this. And then the next question is, you remember who they were playing? He goes, yeah, the Jets.
So, Judge, unlike Martinez, who, his roots only go back to 84, this is me in 1975 wearing my Bob Greasy T-shirt and helmet with my mother's parents back in the day.
Yeah, well, I have
All right, we give you credit for being a fan.
I was a
You're not a total moron.
that's not total. So I started young, but I got to tell you, Judge, my personal take, I am a bigger fan of you as a jurist than I ever was as a football player. You ran an unbelievably fair and honorable courtroom. You showed favoritism to nobody, and you showed respect to everybody.
Thank you.
Tolerated no nonsense from lawyers, and we are, if nothing else, experts at game playing, tomfoolery, using technicalities and loopholes and trying to pull rabbits out of hats. You took none of it. You stood for none of it. You were always courteous. You were always polite. You were always kind, yet you were always firm. And we always knew where we stood in your courtroom.
Was he like that at home, Holly?
Many of your colleagues who did not have that.
Exactly.
Was he like that at home? Was it
Definitely.
in the house?
Yeah, Kathy would get my wife.
Like,
Kathy
my mom
would
helped a
get carried
lot.
away, and I'd leave the room, and they would work it out somehow. Let the women handle it.
I want to thank everybody for coming. Holly, thank you so much for popping
Thank you.
up. I'm very very moved. The book was wonderful. It was a really easy read, and when I say easy, I mean it was simple to read. You didn't want to put it down. It flowed, even though there were some technical talk on football stuff that many people, including myself, didn't really get. It didn't matter because it still flowed so nicely, and it was such a personal tale. And to learn so much more about Ed Newman than I ever knew for all of those years that I practiced. I mean, obviously, I knew who I was in front of, and I knew Tony, but I didn't know the why of Edward K. Newman.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. This is a really amazing, great experience. Holly, thank you for helping me. Eddie, thank you for being a great litigator. And Michael, thank you as well. You both were good friends in the court over the years. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, we're pleased to. And again, everybody who hasn't read it yet, if you do get a chance, please pick up a copy of Judge Newman's book, Warrior Judge, One Man's Journey from Gridiron to Gavel. There we go. A little promo from Holly. It's a great read. You can read it digitally. You can read it in physical print. And as His Honor just said, if you mail it to him, as long as you include a self-addressed return stamped envelope, he'll be happy to send it back to you signed.
I'll go this. I don't want to pay for your postage. So just drop a check, put a $10 check next with the book, and I'll send it back.
I'm going to invite you to coffee when you sign it.
That's even better.
Much better.
More, so I can buy you that coffee.
I'd like that.
I want to thank
have
everybody.
It sooner than later.
I want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to thank our audience for watching. I want to thank Miami's community networks for producing the Miami community newspapers for producing the show, even with the snafus with the photos. It was a lot of fun. It was really well done. Thank you. Props to everybody. Holly, thank you so much again for joining us. Wish everybody a wonderful day, a great week. Just as a programming note, there will not be a show next week. We're taking the week off, but we will see you the following week for episode number 85 of At Your Service with Haber and Martinez. Have a great, and one more thing, we will be posting this show all across social media as soon as the producers get us links. It'll be on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, MeWe, Facebook, pretty much anywhere you want to watch it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Top shelf. Holly, I'll talk to you later. Everybody, I'll talk to you next time. All right.
Bye.